extreme heat warning has been issued, and you are listening to BBC Radio Wales with me, Colette Hume. And coming up on the programme in the next half an hour, we're expecting searing heat over the next few days. But what happens if you think you're too hot to go to work?
Now, I don't think anybody can argue that working in 40 degrees Celsius heat is in any way reasonable. We would say at 30 should be an absolute maximum.
That's the view of Shelley Asquith, Health and Safety Officer at the TUC. So, what are our rights when it comes to hot weather? We'll have the answers with an employment lawyer. The heat is going to dominate our lives for the next few days. Now, here in Wales, an amber warning of extreme heat has now been extended across the whole of Wales for Monday and Tuesday. That is the second highest warning there is. Now, we spoke earlier on to the TUC. We talked about what the problems were with heat in offices. Let's get another perspective on it. Let's talk to the employment lawyer, Elissa Thursfield, because Elissa advises firms on what they can do. And a very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Colette. Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure. What are the legal obligations on firms when it comes to hot weather and employees? What do they have to ensure? Is there anything they have to ensure?
So surprisingly enough, there isn't a maximum temperature in the UK that people can be required to work in. We do have a minimum, so it's 16 degrees Celsius or 13 if you're doing physical or manual work. But we don't have a maximum, perhaps because our weather's been so terrible for so many years. It's never really been an issue. However, that doesn't get employers out of any of their obligations. An employer has an obligation towards the health and safety of people who are working for them. So if it's so hot that you've got people passing out at their desks, or have got heat stroke or significantly dehydrated, then the employer's probably failed in that duty of care, and they should have been taking some steps to make sure that the workplace is more suitable.
Just going back, if I can, to the fact that there is no maximum temperature, a kind of two-pronged question. Should there be a maximum? And should it be, as the TUC say, should it be 30 degrees? Is it possible to have a maximum temperature?
I suppose other countries have maximum working temperatures. There's no reason why Parliament couldn't legislate to bring that in. I suppose the difficulty we have in this country is we're not very much set up for hot weather. Our houses are very insulated. We're very good at keeping the warmth in, but we're not very good at keeping things cold. Air conditioning is still a bit of a rarity. So I suppose if we had a maximum working temperature for workplaces, those workplaces that can afford air conditioning, where you're in more modern offices and you've got your mod cons and you can throw money at that sort of thing, they're going to be able to operate, whereas the people who are on more of a restricted budget are probably going to find then that they'd have to close. So it's how you kind of level that playing field whilst keeping employees safe as well that will be the difficulty.
Okay, so here's the scenario. I've worked in a kitchen. I've been a washer-up, and that was pretty hot work. It's really hot. I'm feeling pretty unwell. What can I say? What can I require my employer to do to help me?
Hopefully that should just be a very basic conversation with another person where you say, I'm really uncomfortable. Is there anything that we can do? Can we open a back door? Can we get a fan in here? Making sure that people have got lots of water, or perhaps there's ice available, and those sorts of things. So let's cover the basics first and see, do we have to be working in this particular area? Is there somewhere else that we could be working within the building? I know with something like pot washing, that's very difficult, but being creative about the options before we get to the stage of, we need to send everybody home. But certainly looking at things like fans, or allowing people to bring in things that make them more comfortable, or relaxing the dress code a bit, letting people take their ties off and wear looser clothing can go a long way to making people feel more comfortable.
That was going to be my next question. Clothing is such a big thing. Now, for example, I've only ever seen once in a Crown Court judges allowing barristers to take their wigs off, and they were melting. But again, dress code. How do you have that conversation with your employer that it's too hot for me to wear a suit? Can I please come in my shorts and t-shirt? How do you do that without causing problems with your employer that might go on long after the heat has disappeared?
Again, it's being respectful about how you ask. And, if you're not suggesting you're going to come in a Hawaiian shirt and a mini skirt or something like that, it's, can I wear something a bit looser? Particularly if you're not client facing. I used to work in a very corporate environment, and when it was a bit hot, clients would get emailed to say, look, ordinarily we're very smart, we're doing our best. However, it's a bit hot, your lawyer might be a little bit more dressed down today. And generally people don't have a problem with it. So it's asking a reasonable question, saying, look, it's really warm in here, this is really going to help. And ultimately, if your employer says no and they're difficult about things and it affects your health or it affects the well-being of someone at work, then potentially that's been a breach of their legal rights, and there's something that employees could do about that.
Elissa, thank you very much indeed there. Good advice from employment lawyer Elissa Thursfield. I'm just thinking, have I got a Hawaiian shirt? Could I wear it for work? I think the answer is no and no.